The starlight scattered across Europa Station's observation dome, casting prismatic patterns on Dr. Kira Patel's data tablet. She adjusted her worn lab coat and continued documenting the unusual energy signatures that had been appearing in Jupiter's orbit for the past week. The massive gas giant loomed behind her, its eternal storms a reminder of nature's raw power. "Dr. Patel, you need to see this." Research assistant Jun Nakamura's voice crackled through the station's comm system. His typically calm demeanor had an edge she'd never heard before. Kira switched her tablet to the main sensor array and froze. The energy signature had multiplied tenfold, and now there was something else. A massive object decelerating into Jupiter's orbit, its size dwarfing Europa Station by orders of magnitude. "Sound the alarm, June Protocol 7. Her voice remained steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. As the station's chief xenobiologist, she had prepared for first contact scenarios countless times. She never expected to actually implement those protocols. The station's lights shifted to amber as warning klaxons echoed through the corridors. Within minutes, the entire research team of 15 assembled in the main laboratory. Director Thomas Hammond's weathered face showed concern as he addressed the group. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have visitors. Dr. Patel will brief us on what we know so far." Kira projected the sensor data onto the main screen. The object appears to be approximately 3 kilometers in length, composed of materials unlike anything in our database. Its method of propulsion doesn't match any known physics model. Based on its controlled deceleration and deliberate approach, we're dealing with an artificial construct, and whoever built it knows we're here. The room erupted in murmurs until Director Hammond raised his hand for silence. "We've trained for this." Everyone to their stations. "Dr. Patel, prepare the linguistic first contact package. Jun, monitor all frequencies for attempted communication." The next hour passed in tense preparation. Kira had just finished uploading humanity's greeting message, a carefully crafted combination of mathematical principles, scientific knowledge, and cultural information, when Jun's console lit up like a Christmas tree. Multiple signals incoming. Jun's fingers flew across his console. Wait, something's wrong. The station's system's air. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in immediately, but every screen in the laboratory displayed the same message in perfect English. "Your species will be evaluated." Before anyone could react, the air shimmered with a pale green light. Tall, elegant figures materialized throughout the station. Humanoid but clearly alien, with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. They moved with impossible grace, wearing what appeared to be living armor that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. "Remain calm," Kira announced to her colleagues, taking a step forward. "We are peaceful researchers and—" One of the aliens raised a crystalline device. Director Hammond and several others collapsed instantly. Kira's scientific mind noted their chest movement, unconscious, not dead, even as she backed away from the advancing figures. "The human species demonstrates concerning potential," one of the aliens spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "You have achieved space flight and nuclear fusion far too quickly. The Viridian consensus requires evaluation before such races are permitted to expand further." Kira's mind raced. "We have no hostile intentions. Let us prove." "Your intentions are irrelevant. Your rate of advancement poses an unacceptable risk to galactic stability." The alien's mental voice was completely devoid of emotion. "One specimen will be sufficient for preliminary evaluation." Before Kira could process those words, the alien raised its device again. Her colleagues collapsed one by one. Jun reached for her, fear in his eyes, before falling unconscious. Soon, she stood alone among her fallen friends. "Why me?" Kira demanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Your neural patterns indicate highest adaptation potential. You will serve as representative of your species." The alien gestured, and the air around Kira began to shimmer. "The evaluation begins now." As the world dissolved around her, Kira's last thought was of the irony. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and they saw not our achievements or our potential for peace, but only the threat we might become. The laboratory faded from view, replaced by the sterile interior of what she assumed was the alien vessel. Her real work, she realized, was just beginning. Whatever tests these Viridians had planned, she would show them humanity's true nature, not through force or fear, but through the very qualities they seemed to dismiss: our curiosity, our adaptability, and our unwavering spirit. The Viridian observer noted its first impression. Subject displays unusual calm when faced with superior force. Preliminary threat assessment. Elevated. Recommendation: proceed with comprehensive evaluation protocols. The observation chamber was a perfect sphere of seamless white material. Kira had been here for what she estimated was 3 days, though without any natural light cycles. She couldn't be certain. The Viridians had provided her with nothing but a simple white garment and what appeared to be nutritional supplements that tasted like bland tofu. Begin cognitive assessment sequence 17, the disembodied voice announced. Kira had named the voice protocol in her head. It helped maintain her sanity to anthropomorphize her captor's automated systems. The white walls shimmered, transforming into a 3-dimensional star map. Hundreds of points of light swirled around her, each representing a solar system. Red lines began connecting various stars, forming complex patterns. Identify the logical progression, protocol instructed. Kira studied the pattern. Her scientific training kicked in, and she began to notice something familiar about the connections. They weren't random. They followed the same mathematical principles as organic neural networks. The pattern was growing like a brain. The connections represent optimal travel routes, she said, but they're also modeling consciousness emergence in a quantum network. You're not just mapping space. You're building a galactic nervous system. The star map froze. For the first time, Protocol's voice carried a hint of something beyond its usual monotone. Unexpected insight detected. Subject demonstrates pattern recognition exceeding previous species benchmarks. The door to the chamber dilated open, and one of the Viridians entered. This one was different from the others she'd seen. Its liquid metal armor was more elaborate, with swirling patterns that seemed to reflect thoughts rather than light. Kira had learned to read their subtle expressions, and this one appeared troubled. "I am Nexus Guide Talon." It communicated directly to her mind. "Your response requires discussion." "I'm honored," Kira replied carefully. "Though I'd prefer if you released my colleagues and opened diplomatic relations properly. Your species continues to confound our models." Talon moved closer, its galaxy eyes studying her intently. "You were given no context for that test, yet you not only solved it but identified its deeper purpose." "How?" "Humans are pattern seekers by nature," Kira explained. "We evolved as persistence hunters, tracking prey by interpreting subtle signs in our environment. We apply that same drive to everything we encounter: science, art, the cosmos itself. Yet your species barely understands quantum mechanics. Your fastest ships are primitive chemical rockets." "Understanding comes before application," Kira countered. "We may be young, but we learn quickly. Not because we're superior, but because we're curious. Every human child asks why before they learn to be afraid of the answer." Talon's armor rippled with what Kira interpreted as agitation. Previous evaluations of emerging species followed predictable patterns. Military capability developed in proportion to technological advancement. Your species diverges. Your military technology lags behind your theoretical understanding. It does not fit our models. "Perhaps your models need updating," Kira suggested. "Humanity's greatest achievements came not from warfare, but from cooperation and innovation. We reached space not to conquer it, but to understand it. Yet your history is filled with conflict." "Yes," Kira admitted. "We fight. We make mistakes. But we also learn from them. Each generation strives to be better than the last. That's why I was on Europa Station, not to claim territory or establish military presence, but to study, to learn, to understand. The chamber walls shifted again, this time displaying images from Earth's history: wars, environmental disasters, social upheaval. But alongside them appeared other images: medical breakthroughs, space exploration, artistic masterpieces, acts of sacrifice and heroism. "Your species demonstrates remarkable resilience," Talon observed. "When faced with catastrophe, you not only survive, you create. This is problematic." Why? Because we don't fit into your neat categories of primitive versus advanced. Because we might develop in ways you can't predict. Precisely. Talon's mental voice carried a new tone, respect tinged with fear. The consensus has maintained galactic stability for millennia by controlling species development. Those who advance too quickly are contained. Those who advance predictably are guided. You are neither. Then perhaps it's time for the consensus to evolve as well, Kira suggested. You claim to protect galactic stability, but true stability comes from adaptation, not control. Before Talon could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the vessel. The chamber walls flickered, showing external views of space. A small ship had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, its design unlike anything Kira had seen before. "Impossible," Talon broadcast. "No human vessel possesses stealth capability at this level." Kira smiled slightly. "You've been so focused on evaluating me, you forgot about my colleagues. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in our individual capabilities. It's in what we can achieve together." The small ship fired no weapons, but waves of electromagnetic energy pulsed from it, interfering with the Viridian vessel's systems. Kira recognized the theory behind it, a practical application of quantum field manipulation that she and Jun had been researching on Europa Station. "They turned our theoretical work into a functioning system in just a few days," she said with pride. "That's humanity for you. Give us an impossible problem, and we'll find a way to solve it, not through superior technology or strength, but through creativity and determination." As chaos erupted around them, Talon turned its galaxy eyes to Kira with new understanding. "Perhaps," it communicated, "we have been asking the wrong questions in our evaluation." The chamber plunged into darkness as the ship's systems continued to fail. In the emergency lighting, Kira stood tall, ready to face whatever came next. The real test was just beginning, not of humanity's threat potential, but of our capacity to forge understanding even with those who feared us. The Viridian ship's corridors pulsed with emergency lighting as Kira ran alongside Talon. The electromagnetic pulses from the rescue vessel, which she now recognized as bearing Europa Station's experimental quantum signature, had disrupted more than just the ship's systems. They had cracked something far more fundamental: the Viridian sense of absolute control. "Your colleagues have triggered a cascade failure in our containment systems," Talon communicated urgently. "The other evaluation subjects are breaking free." "Other subjects?" Kira skidded to a halt. "There are more prisoners. Specimens from 17 species deemed potentially destabilizing to galactic order. Most have been in stasis for centuries." Talon's mental voice carried an unfamiliar edge. Was that panic? A deep rumble shook the ship. Through a transparent section of the corridor, Kira saw massive doors sliding open in the vessel's hull. Escape pods were launching, dozens of them, each carrying awakened specimens from different worlds. "You can't stop them all, can you?" Kira realized. "Your perfect system of control is breaking down." "The consensus will not allow," Talon began, but another explosion cut off the thought. Through the chaos, Kira heard something else: singing. The sound was haunting, complex, unlike anything she'd ever heard. It was coming from one of the containment sections ahead. "The Harmonious," Talon explained reluctantly. "A species that communicates through quantum-entangled sonic patterns. We contained them when they began teaching other species their methods." "Because knowledge is power," Kira muttered. "And you couldn't control who they shared it with." They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Down one, Kira saw floating crystalline beings shooting bursts of energy at Viridian guards. Another corridor showed serpentine creatures phasing through walls as if they were mist. The third, Jun, Kira shouted. Her research assistant was there with a team wearing Europa Station environmental suits, modified with what looked like quantum field generators. Dr. Patel. Jun's voice crackled through an external speaker. The QED pulses worked better than we hoped. Their system's air. Look out. Kira shoved Talon aside as a beam of purple energy lanced through the space where they'd been standing. A group of released prisoners, massive arthropoid beings, were fighting their way toward the ship's central core. The containment failure is total, Talon broadcast, its mental voice tinged with despair. The consensus will initiate purge protocols. Meaning what exactly? Kira demanded, though she feared she knew the answer. The ship will self-destruct, eliminating all evidence of containment failure. It is protocol. Jun and his team had reached them. We need to go, Dr. Patel. Our ship can't maintain the quantum interference much longer. But Kira's mind was racing. The singing of the harmonious had changed pitch, and she noticed the crystalline beings had stopped fighting. They were resonating with the song. Wait, she said. Talon, your people built this ship to connect minds, didn't you? Like that star map test. You're not just studying species, you're trying to understand consciousness itself. The consensus seeks perfect order, Talon admitted. Unity through understanding. Then understand this, Kira insisted. Look around you. Every species you imprisoned, they're not just fighting for freedom, they're working together. The harmonious are coordinating through song. The crystalline beings are providing cover. Even the phase shifters are helping others escape. Another explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed as the self-destruct sequence began. We have to leave now, Jun insisted. Not without them. Kira gestured to the other escaped species. Talon, you have a choice. Help us save everyone on this ship, or watch your perfect system of control destroy itself. For a moment that felt like eternity, Talon stood motionless. Then, its armor rippled with new patterns, ones Kira had never seen before. The override codes, it broadcast, not just to Kira, but to all minds within range. The escape pods can be redirected to follow your vessel, but the self-destruct cannot be stopped completely, only delayed. That's all we need. Kira nodded to Jun, who began coordinating with their ship. The singing of the harmonious swelled, carrying Talon's instructions to every corner of the vessel. As they raced toward the rescue ship, Kira saw something extraordinary. Species that had been imprisoned for centuries, that had every reason to seek revenge, were instead helping Viridian crew members to safety. The crystalline beings formed bridges across damaged sections of corridor. Phase shifters transported injured guards to escape pods. I don't understand. Talon communicated as they reached the airlock. They should hate us. Why do they help? Because that's what truly advanced beings do, Kira replied. They rise above hate. They choose to help, even those who hurt them. That's the real test of civilization. Not our technology or our power, but our capacity for compassion. The rescue ship detached just as the first explosions began deep within the Viridian vessel. Behind them, a stream of escape pods followed, carrying beings from 18 different species, 19, counting the Viridians who had chosen to abandon the consensus. As they accelerated away from the dying ship, the harmonious song changed again. This time, Kira understood what they were singing about. It was a song of rebirth. The Europa Station's main conference room had never been designed to host an interstellar summit. Yet here they were, representatives of 18 different species crowded around hastily configured environmental bubbles and translation interfaces. The harmonious crystalline resonance chambers floated near the ceiling, their song providing a background harmony that somehow made the babble of different communication methods feel coherent. Director Hammond stood at the head of the table, looking remarkably composed for someone who had just helped orchestrate a rescue mission that shattered a galactic power structure. "We've received word that 3 more Viridian ships have entered the solar system," he announced. "They're holding position at the Kuiper Belt." "The consensus will not accept this defiance," Talon communicated. The former Nexus Guide's liquid metal armor had dulled to a matte finish, reflecting their separation from the Viridian collective. "They will come with overwhelming force." One of the phase shifters, who called themselves the Mist Weavers, rippled in what Kira had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive gesture. "Let them come. We have survived their containment for centuries. We will survive this." "No," Kira spoke up. "We won't just survive. We'll change their minds." All attention turned to her. Even the harmonious song quieted. "The consensus fears what they can't control," she continued. "But look at what we've achieved in just a few days. The Harmonious have taught us how to link quantum communications across species barriers. The Crystal Collective has shown us how to convert energy into matter in ways our physics said was impossible. The Mist Weavers understand spatial dimensions we never knew existed." "And what have humans contributed?" asked one of the arthropoid beings, the Nexus Workers, as they called themselves. "Besides impressive determination." Jun stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "We've combined your quantum harmonics with our experimental field generators. The result is a system that can create stable pocket universes, temporary safe havens where we can gather, learn, and plan without fear of consensus interference. More importantly," Kira added, "we've shown that different species can work together without needing control or dominance. Every being in this room has contributed something unique. We're not just sharing technology. We're sharing perspectives, ideas, dreams." The harmonious song swelled, and through the quantum link they'd established, Kira felt their message. "The humans speak truth. Our strength lies not in resistance, but in harmony." Director Hammond pulled up another display, showing the approaching Viridian fleet. "They'll be here in 6 hours. Whatever we're going to do, we need to decide now." Talon's armor shifted, showing patterns Kira now recognized as deep thought. "The consensus believes they understand humanity. They see your rapid advancement and assume you will follow the path of conquest, as so many species before you have. They cannot comprehend a species that advances through cooperation rather than competition." "Then we'll show them," Kira declared, "not through force, but through demonstration." "Jun, are the quantum pocket generators ready?" Her assistant nodded. "We can create a space large enough to hold the entire station and all our ships. But we'd only have about 20 minutes before it collapses. 20 minutes to change the mind of a galactic civilization," Hammond mused. "I've faced worse odds." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. The Crystal Collective worked with human engineers to create a network of energy converters throughout the station. The Mist Weavers taught them how to phase the entire station slightly out of normal spacetime, making it harder for the Viridians to target. The Harmonious composed a new song, one that would carry their message directly to the minds of every Viridian in range. When the consensus fleet arrived, they found something unprecedented, a unified defense that wasn't based on weapons or shields, but on the combined knowledge and abilities of 19 different species working in perfect harmony. "Attention Viridian consensus." Kira broadcast on all frequencies, her words carried on waves of harmonious song, amplified by crystalline resonators, and phased through multiple dimensions. "We offer you not resistance, but invitation." Before the Viridian ships could respond, Jun activated the quantum pocket generators. Space itself seemed to fold, creating a bubble of reality where the laws of physics bent to the combined will of 19 species understanding. Inside this pocket universe, they showed the consensus something they had never seen before, a vision of what the galaxy could be. Not a carefully controlled hierarchy of contained species, but a thriving ecosystem of different minds and methods, each contributing to something greater than themselves. The Harmonious sang of unity through diversity. The Crystal Collective demonstrated how different forms of consciousness could merge and separate without losing their identity. The Mist Weavers showed how even the most solid boundaries could be permeable to understanding. And humanity. They did what they did best. They asked questions, made connections, and showed how every piece fit together into a greater whole. As the pocket universe began to collapse, Kira sent one final message. This is what we can achieve together. Not through control, but through choice. Not through fear, but through understanding. The question isn't whether we're ready to join your galactic community. The question is, are you ready to join ours? As the quantum pocket universe collapsed, Europa Station re-emerged into normal spacetime. The Viridian fleet hung motionless against the backdrop of Jupiter's storms. For several long moments, there was complete silence across all frequencies. Then, one by one, the galaxy eyes of every Viridian ship turned from their usual cold brilliance to a deep, resonant purple, the color of revelation. The consensus requires recalibration. Came the collective broadcast. The voice held something new: humility. Kira stood at the observation dome, watching as the Viridian ships began a complex dance in space, their liquid metal hulls flowing into new configurations. Beside her, Talon's armor had taken on the same purple hue as their kin. In all our millennia of existence, Talon communicated, we never considered that true stability might arise from controlled chaos rather than imposed order. The harmonious song filled the station, no longer just a background resonance, but a full symphony of possibility. Through their quantum link, every species present could feel the impact of what they had achieved. It wasn't just a victory, it was a transformation. The consensus acknowledges error. The fleet broadcast. We sought to prevent galactic chaos by containing species we deemed unpredictable. In doing so, we became that which we feared most, a force of stagnation rather than growth. Director Hammond stepped forward. What happens now? Now, one of the Crystal Collective sparkled. We build something new, something that has never existed before. The next few hours saw the birth of what would later be called the Galactic Confluence, not an empire or a federation, but a living network of civilizations. The Viridian ships transformed themselves into massive crystalline structures that would serve as meeting points between species. The Harmonious began teaching their quantum harmonics to anyone who wished to learn, their songs becoming the foundation of a new form of faster-than-light communication. The Mist Weavers established phase-shifted corridors between distant star systems, while the Crystal Collective worked with human scientists to develop technologies that could adapt to any species' needs. The Nexus workers began constructing vast arrays that could sustain pocket universes indefinitely, spaces where different species could interact regardless of their physical requirements. But it was humanity's contribution that truly cemented the new order, not through technology or power, but through their fundamental nature, their endless curiosity, their ability to adapt, and most importantly, their capacity to see connections where others saw only barriers. Your species never needed to call itself warriors, Talon observed to Kira as they watched the construction begin. You defended not through force, but through understanding. You fought not with weapons, but with ideas. That's the thing about humans. Kira smiled. We're at our best when we're solving problems, building bridges, making connections. Give us a challenge, and we'll find a way through it, not around it. The Harmonious began a new song, one that would be remembered for generations across the galaxy. It told the story not of a great battle or a mighty empire, but of a moment when 19 different species chose to trust rather than fear, to build rather than destroy. As the song reached its crescendo, a message arrived from Earth. The governments of humanity had convened an emergency session and reached a unanimous decision. Earth would serve as the first test case for true interspecies cooperation. We have much to learn from each other, the Earth's response stated, and much to teach, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals in the great mystery of existence. The Viridian fleet commander, its galaxy eyes now permanently shifted to purple, made one final broadcast. The species that never called itself a warrior has taught us the greatest lesson of all. True strength lies not in the power to control, but in the wisdom to connect. Years later, when young beings of all species would ask about the Great Transformation, they would learn not of epic battles or heroic last stands, but of a simple human scientist who asked questions instead of making demands, who sought understanding instead of victory, who showed that the greatest defense is not a wall between differences, but a bridge across them. And in the quantum harmonics that now connected all sapient beings, they could still hear echoes of that first song of unity. A reminder that the greatest warriors are often those who never seek to fight at all. The end.